November 5th. We don't need a roll call for work sessions, do we?
Well, we do need to know who is present, so.
All right,
wouldn't hurt.
you can do a roll call. Please, would you please
Yes.
assist us with a roll call?
Susan Kiefer,
Yes.
Marta Terenzi,
Present.
Patty Jensen,
Here.
Marissa Shepherd,
Absent.
Kevin Keating,
Absent.
Neither appears to be present, so. I would like to read the land acknowledgement. Jackson County Library Services acknowledges that its libraries are located within the traditional lands of the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians and the Modoc Nation, as well as the Shasta, Takelma, and Lagawa people, whose descendants are now identified as members of the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians and the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. We take this moment to recognize the indigenous peoples whose traditional lands are where the residents of Jackson County live today. JCLS is committed to fostering understanding, deep respect, and honor for indigenous people, and we encourage you to learn more about the land you reside on. For more information, go to jcls.org/land. So here we are again to try to have a work session to talk about these United for Library goodies that happened back in July. So Carrie and I were briefly chatting about how to approach this. It seems to me that the session 10 things library boards should know but don't had some interesting materials, and what's the title of the first one?
The very first session was effective board meetings.
Yeah, and the first one was effective board meetings. We thought that perhaps one of the things we ought to talk about was there anything in any of these sessions that surprised you or that struck you as particularly interesting? And I think we also ought to look for things that were brought up in these sessions that might be things that we could improve upon in the operations of our very own board.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things I did in the more effective board meetings, I think, was to print the cheat sheet for Robert's Rules of Order, which is now sitting on my computer at home. But anyway, it's front and back, so it'll be easy to keep us perhaps more on track.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that particular session about effective meetings and what goes into them, they talked also about the pre-board meeting, which in our case in Oregon, we cannot have quorum there. And also, to me, it sounds like the board chair and the vice chair meeting with the library director a week or so, 2 weeks before the board meeting is what takes place. Is that kind of how you would see it, Susan and Carrie? I'm just trying to find equivalency or similarity or difference.
I think our agenda planning meetings do fill that particular recommendation, because we look at things. We don't necessarily at the meetings review the minutes, but Yoli keeps this sheet of things that are supposed to come up. And bless you.
Excuse me.
Maybe I should.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Marta, I hope you don't catch that one from me.
I'm hiding. I'm recovering, but I'm hiding.
We look at what we did at the last meeting, and Carrie and I are now meeting post-board meetings to sort of look at what we need to carry forward. So we do a postmortem, and then the agenda plannings are sort of a pre-mortem or whatever.
Yeah, and I think, like, kind of following up on that, it is something that I've tried to do each year with the president of the board, to have a, post-board meeting. Hey, is there any information that you would like to make sure I bring to the next one, or anything that we can do together in between meetings? But I would encourage any of you to follow up with me after a meeting and say, hey, Carrie, that was great. Can I get more information about this? Or, anything like that. Patty?
Yes, ma'am, just talk,
Yes?
go.
Oh, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and that's great that you guys just brought this up, because I was going to send you a little note, Carrie, and I didn't get to it, but I think it would be really helpful for me anyway, while I'm still learning, to maybe go over what I plan on presenting to the foundation board as the liaison, because I want to make sure, like both meetings now where I've done that, you have, in a very tactful way and gentle, I said, Patty, and
What about?
let's add this too. So is that okay to do that? And because that would be a big help to me.
And I know Marta has done the same. She is our representative to the Rogue Valley Council of Governments meetings, and she'll text me or email me and say, hey, I'm planning to talk about this, this, and this. Anything else you want me to say? And so that's a good kind of check-in, and what are we talking about with different groups? And so, and Susan and I, we used to sit next to each other and be like, don't forget this thing. So yeah.
Okay.
Board meetings. So yeah, and I think the challenging thing with the foundation board meetings is sometimes it's going to be the day before our meeting, and some months is going to be the week after our board meeting. So, it's harder to remember what we did 3 weeks ago than what we're doing tomorrow, that kind of thing. So
I relied very heavily on the agenda for the board meeting when I was making my.
I did exactly that too, but I still missed a really important one, and that was talking about how we're looking for candidates for the budget committee.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
I
mentioned-
also,
Yeah.
I would wish to know how many of them have had a chance to watch the foundation day, the fundraising day of the 3 tracks that United for Libraries conference virtually offered. Just if we can ask that, just out of curiosity, not as a homework, but
No,
in the spirit of co-learning, that's all.
Collins was pretty interested in it, I know, because she and I chatted initially about that it was available, and I think I had already watched part of that, so I thought that one of those sessions for the foundation people was really right on.
Mhm.
And I will just say too, like, having gone off and on over the last 5-6 years since they've been having this conference, I feel really bad this year that I was not able to engage as much. Certainly when the conference was live, I wasn't there, but then not even being able to really follow up and watch all of them, because I woke up at 5:30 this morning to watch one of the sessions, mostly because I couldn't sleep, not because like that's what I like to do at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was just really impressed yet again with the quality of the programs that they have at this every year. And actually, as you were saying that, Marta, I was like, oh yeah, I presented at the conference this year. I totally forgot. That was one of the 4 sessions on the foundation day, was me and Jenny talking about our unique relationship. And so, yeah. And I also, Patty, I know Yoli said that you were not able to get into the sessions because you hadn't registered, right? So I don't want you all to think Patty didn't do her homework. She's excused because she was unable
How long
to get
has
to
she
it.
had since July?
Well, no, because she didn't register for the conference, she couldn't get access to the recordings.
Oh,
So what I was thinking just now as we were talking about this and having just watched one of them this morning is many of them have the slide decks that we could download and then we could share those on our SharePoint.
right, I did download. I downloaded to mine.
And I want to give a shout out of appreciation to Yoli, who tried hard and diligently to get me, even talk to internal IT to see if there was any hope for me, but there was not. But at least I tried to do it, and that's how I found out that I couldn't do it. So I get half a point, maybe.
Absolutely.
You get lots of-
And just for the minutes and everything, Kevin Keating joined the meeting at 3:47 PM.
Hello.
Hey, Keith.
Not meant to call you out, but just to make sure it's all official.
I guess it gets over there.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because the
Oh, they used
owl,
to be up there.
owl will follow you everywhere.
It's on here.
So we're sort of talking about the 10 things that library board members should know but don't, and the most, how to have more effective meetings, and seeing if anything struck folks in particular, or what we might improve in our operations.
Was this session one we're talking about? Or do you remember?
Session 3 was the top 10 things trustees should know.
Okay, good. Notes.
I think the presenters in a couple of those sessions did a really good job reminding the trustees to stick to high level things, policies, direction, managing the relationship / oversight of the library director. And they reminded us that staff management, it's on the library director's thing. Like there was even a slide on, here are the tasks, who do they lie with, director versus board of trustees. I really found also the session on the animal that is a trustee. That was session number 2, very valuable. I ended up going to the trustee project website. It's housed at the University of Kentucky website, and I took the survey. The project has a goal of having 10,000 responses nationally. So I would like, through Yoli, I'll send out a link to encourage you to take it. The survey does not take more than 15 minutes. This will help get some West Coast voices into the study, perhaps micropolitan, metropolitan, rural Oregon voices into the study. It was fascinating, like one of the findings in there that I really stuck out to me, that 7% of the responders or the respondents said that, they are serving as a trustee because of other political aspirations, but 35% of administrative staff and library directors thought that it was a key motivator behind why a trustee is serving. So just, some really cool perceptions versus self-reported realities. And I think there were some pretty clear parallels between the survey and outcomes, results of the survey, and what we ask ourselves during the board self-evaluation. Like, do I have the information I need? Do I feel heard? Do I feel empowered to speak? Do I feel like, how meaningful is my participation on this? So I recommend everybody on the board consider taking that survey. That one was like session 1 and session 3 and others, they were more about the logistics, but the why behind the service and also how to enhance and improve the service experience for trustees. I feel like the session number 2 really got there for me. And I ended up taking some time and responding to the survey. Wanted to make sure to share that.
And Marta, I can take that too, right? I can take the survey too?
I think
I think,
Yes.
right, it was directors and board members, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually there's like a mini triage question
Yeah.
when you first start
Right.
taking it.
Right.
Who are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I remember being struck at how few young people are involved in boards, and that's disappointing.
Oh, the representation was
Yeah.
really, you know, the demographics, and I was pretty proud of the diversity that we have on our board right now.
Yes.
I mean, in the time you've been on the board, I think this is more diversity within the board that we've had,
Yes.
particularly having three working
People who
board
are
members
still
right
working
now.
for a living. I was describing our board as in another gathering I was at yesterday and said that we had been pretty lucky because we had 3 members of our board that didn't have white hair and that were still gainfully employed.
That's changing soon.
So,
Wait, are you saying you're not gonna be gainfully employed, or that your hair's going
My
white?
hair's going.
yeah.
Wait, I'm gainfully employed and I dye my hair. I just got a job offer yesterday from SOU.
Awesome.
Good for you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Teaching.
Right,
And
that
that-
would make us having 3 active educators on the board because at a conference in Ohio, I mentioned we have 3 educators, and you mentioned, your journalism and other qualifications and the corporate experience. And I said, well, you were an educator at some point. That would bring you back to being an active educator. So we'd have 3 active educators.
Well, see, I'm a retired one of those too, so
There you go.
I thought it was,
You don't want everyone that has the same background either, do we? So you had brought that up, Marta, one time, that we want diversity of skill sets too, eh?
yes, we've done pretty well in that regard,
Yeah.
I think. And I thought on the 10 things library trustees should know, I mean, a lot of that was about what our responsibilities are, and it seemed to me like we were at least trying to do many of them. I mean, we've really upped our game in the advocacy and community connection and building relationships. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do yet on that, but and the various planning things they mentioned, and the director and the board evaluations. It's not like we do it all perfectly, but I think we're at least working on it. And if people have recommendations for how we could improve our approaches in those, that would be good too.
There's a fine line between running an efficient meeting. I know that they were talking about, I forget which session now, I watched them all at once. But running it efficiently and then still having enough time to make sure that everybody is able to jump in on the conversation.
And how do you think we do with that?
I think we wander sometimes, but I think, and I'm not sure that we all share as much as we should, but it's getting better.
I've been trying hard to improve my keeping people on track, but I also don't want to stifle.
Right, that's the sweet spot, right? You gotta get to that.
Getting to the sweet spot is,
They were adamant about starting on time and ending on time. And I think we've been okay with that generally, but we don't really have a hard end, but maybe we should.
We started 6 minutes late today, for example. And one of the things that, and I'm sorry, you all should talk first.
Go ahead.
But one of the things that struck me was with the effective board meetings, when talking about the agenda, and we've started unofficially doing this of saying, and Marta, I think you had asked one time, can we try to end by 5:30 because of other obligations? And it's like, to your point though, like, we don't want to stifle the conversations. And so as we're building the agenda, kind of estimating times for each agenda item. Sometimes we do that during the agenda session, planning session with the executive committee. Sometimes at that meeting, we're not sure exactly that it's the final agenda. And so sometimes it's when we're putting together the final agenda that I'm going through and trying to put some time estimates on things. If that is something you all would find helpful on the agenda itself, I'd be happy to try starting to put that on the agenda, and that way too, like if we have a topic like the state statistical report, you know, since we had a work session and a lot of the questions answered in the board meeting, it might only be a 5-minute discussion. But if we didn't have that pre-session, it might be a 15-minute discussion, or, you know, so just giving some expectations, but also then being able to say, you know what, we've reached our, we said 10 minutes for this topic. There's still more to be said. Are you all okay continuing the conversation? Or should we table it until the next meeting or whatever that is? But then it becomes a more conscious decision. Or we go into a meeting knowing that it's gonna be closer to the 2 hours and we need to plan accordingly or whatever. So I would like to know what you all think on that.
I will say I am a big fan of that. It helps me keep myself under control. But I don't know that it's been a big problem in the past, my limited experience, but it just kind of, as you said, Carrie, it's about managing expectations, eh?
Mhm. And I like the idea of putting not necessarily time limits, but an expectation of how long an item discussion will take. So I'm in favor of that as well. I like that they used an example of agendas having the by the minute sort of thing. One of the boards I'm on for a couple more months does that to help manage the variety of topics that get discussed. So big fan of that.
We should probably do that. 4 to 5:30 should be the normal amount of time we allocate to the meeting. And then, if there are special issues, I mean, we in our meeting can decide that, you know, only one of those this month or something like that. Or we can, I mean, the director's report, I don't know, maybe we should put that after new business or something sometimes.
And that's actually one of the things that Eric and I talked about a couple of years ago was, should we be putting the action items first and the reports at the bottom of the agenda so that we do the things that require action and attention, if you will, and then follow up with the other. And in many ways, you know, like the written director's report is
the
written
report.
for a reason,
Sort of.
and it's, so it's,
by
you know,
itself.
I do try to either, you know, pull out 2 or 3 highlights and or supplement what's written there with either something that happened recently or something like that. But then that oral presentation, I think, is where more of the value comes in to give you all a deeper dive into a topic. In November, for example, we are having the state librarian, Wendy Cornelison, will be joining us virtually to talk about library services from the state library. And we're actually going to put her on her own agenda item. But, you know, that may be another thing to look at, is flipping the order of the agenda so that the things that are of substance that are
Action items.
moving towards deliberating towards a decision kind of thing are up front.
The one thing that gives me a pause on that is when we have a presentation or a report from library staff or the foundation staff. I don't like
Still-
keeping people longer than we need to.
Mhm.
Interesting. It's still our most important job though is getting action items done, really, rather than informational things, and they could come later. They don't have to be at the entire meeting, but
Yeah. Right, so if we're doing both, having time estimates on the agenda or time things on the agenda and flipping the order, we could say, okay, Nancy, you're doing the presentation this month. The presentation is scheduled to start at 5 p.m. Show up at 4:45 instead of 4 p.m., right? So I think we can manage expectations that way. But for example, if we have the SOHS person coming, we can say, we'll put you first. And then we'll continue with the rest of them at the end, so that there is still that respect for our guests, especially external guests, but for staff guests, I think we can manage that internally. You know, we can have somebody send them a little Teams message and say, you're up at 5 or whatever. So.
I mean, I think those presentations from staff have been pretty helpful, helping the board understand more about the specifics of what the library staff does in their jobs. And if somebody was up who really was a burden to make them stay late, it's really kind of separate from the director's report. So we could bifurcate those.
Yeah.
If that was desirable.
I like that. Having flexibility rather than a very set formula every time. Also, I don't know if the boardroom folks are aware of it. Sometimes your microphone breaks up. Like in the same way that an auxiliary cable microphone used to. It's not a digital robot voice. It's like when the aux cable used to break up a little bit. So just heads up.
This room or the downstairs room?
Right now,
Now, here.
the owl. So, just let IT just know that we may need to update.
Yeah, good, thanks for that.
I guess there was one point of guidance in the presentations, it's best if a board member serves on just one board. That's not realistic in the Rogue Valley. It just isn't.
Oh, I didn't catch that, yeah.
I saw that too, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that, especially in the first one, I was like, that seems strange. I mean, like, I'm not really a big fan of accreditation groups and, just like going through the motions of all these betterment things usually. I noticed that, and I noticed that she was very adamant about erasing the recordings once the minutes are done. That was strange. I've never had to go back well, we did actually go back and look at recordings once, I did. On an issue when Eric was chairman. So I don't know, not for keeping them.
So I think that we have to look at records retention laws in our state and how long we're required to keep records. We have started posting the video of the board meetings on our website. And I think we're trying to keep like a rolling year of those so that we don't get it all backlogged on there, but it doesn't mean we're deleting and destroying the older ones. If I'm remembering Oregon statute correctly, if you take an audio recording, you are required to retain it for a certain period of time. If you didn't do a recording, then you're not recorded.
So she was talking about voluntary recordings probably.
Yeah.
Whereas we're talking about mandatory recordings.
Yeah.
I have a question. One of the things that they recommended the board to have would be a conflict of interest policy, all that, and they also had a whistleblower policy. Do you think that meant it in terms of the board-related whistleblower policy or just a whistleblower policy for the organization? That was not clear to me because that was, the board trustees' day. I know we signed, I believe we have
We do have a conflicts policy.
Yeah, because I remember signing it and discussing it when we were being onboarded. But do we have a whistleblower policy for the board? And
You're not meaning blowing the whistle as a board member, I think you mean blowing the whistle. I interpreted that as staff.
okay,
We should have a policy that if staff wanted to say something, they could.
And we do have a policy in our employee handbook, but I don't know, because why would she bring that up in that same context as the other? So I don't know if it's part of our D&O insurance or not. So I can ask our insurance carrier.
yeah, and that slide had 5 bullet points, and the directors and officers insurance was actually the last bullet point on there.
Interesting.
Do you think it would make sense or be worthwhile printing when we ask people to watch these things, and because they're pretty high quality learning experiences, I wonder if it'd be worth printing the slides from all these and keeping them in, keeping them organized and in a notebook where we can actually find
What I
them
was
and go
thinking
back
is this thought came to me like 20 minutes ago, but if Yoli downloaded all of the presentations into a file on the SharePoint drive, so that you all could have access to it.
Mhm.
And then if anybody wants printed copies, we can print them for you, but.
I just downloaded them to my Google Drive anyway,
Well,
so.
I downloaded them also, but keeping them so that we can, actually going back and referring to some of these things, I think would probably be good for me anyway.
One more thing in that first session, we've talked about this, but sometimes we get stuff as a handout that we haven't seen yet, or even on the screen that we haven't seen yet. I'm wondering if we should probably have that sent to us a couple of days, or along with the agenda maybe, it'd be really helpful.
I'm
Well,
sure it would.
If they had it in time to send it with the agenda, it would be in your packet, because.
They specifically were talking about that, I remember, is
Right, yeah,
you
no, and
don't
I-
want to be seeing stuff for the first time.
Well, we try not to do that too often.
I know we try not to, and I hear what you're saying, and I think sometimes the challenge is to get it to you a week to a week and a half ahead of the meeting, sometimes isn't sufficient time for us to have all the information gathered. But we could, we can make it a thing that if we don't have it by 24 hours before the board meeting or 48 hours, then we're tabling it to the next meeting or
I
whatever.
think 24 hours is actually okay, I mean, I can
Okay.
generally whip through something really quickly, but yeah, you don't wanna whip through, I don't know.
Well-
Anyway, you get the idea.
Right, well, and then there's sometimes, like, I balance sometimes the sending the information ahead of time, and if I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, I want to be sharing the information with you in real time. And so I guess it depends on the nature of what's being presented, and it's not because I'm trying to withhold the information from you before presenting it, but I'm presenting to you in context of what's written plus what I'm saying.
Totally understand that, and it's
So-
just, it's harder sometimes with that screen the way it is, because of the people online, it
Right.
reduces it, and it's hard to see.
So we can, I think maybe a compromise or a part of the solution is when we're presenting something that hasn't been presented ahead of time, we will provide you with a print copy so that you're not
That's,
squinting
that,
at the
yes,
screen.
That would be very helpful. I
We can go
think
through it
that would be a
clearly.
good rule. Patty?
I don't know if anyone else does this, but I have a tendency, we're all readers, right? When the person's talking, presenting on each slide, I'm reading the slide, and so I'm kind of not listening right then because I'm reading. So I hear what you're saying, Carrie, about how you want to present it in real time. However, especially if they're a little dense, then it certainly would be helpful to have it beforehand. Does anyone else do that? No?
No, I agree with you on that one. I like to hear things. I like to take in information in different ways. So if I have had a chance to scan the information ahead of time, I'm in a better position to absorb what you're saying when you're presenting it in context. And I get the push pull.
Yeah, no, and I think what I'm thinking is sometimes I look at the information and I'm like, I make up this whole story and then come into the meeting already like, and I'm like, well, wait, let me explain it, or let you explain it to me. And I'm like, oh, that makes much more sense. And so some of it's the visual that goes along with the narrative. And so I think that's where I'm not gonna say hesitancy, but where that practice has come from is because, and maybe, again, it goes back to how it's presented on the slides, but if I'm showing you a bunch of data without the narrative behind it, then you're extrapolating your own story from the data that's presented without having all of the context for what's on the slide.
Well, we ought to know about what presentations are coming when we're talking about things in our agenda planning meeting. So we might actually be able to see these things coming and at least talk about them and see if we agree about whether it should come before or not.
Well, and so go ahead, Marta.
To address what you just said, Carrie, I very much hear you. I think if that's been the vibe more than once, then the board can do a better job of approaching the materials provided to us ahead of time with a learner's mind. It's okay to have questions, but in that case, we can try committing to. I mean, so if stuff is provided to us ahead of time, then it's on us to email you to email you questions ahead of time so that that wait, what's this about moment is not happening for the first time on the slides, right? Because you're giving us the courtesy of letting us see the slides ahead of time, and we're going to be reciprocating the courtesy of making sure you know what questions are coming.
Yeah,
Um,
or, "Boy, I really hope you explain slide number 13, Carrie." Yep.
Yes. And I think that's a worthy improvement to be working on. I say it's worth giving a shot. I think, especially because, some of our audience members, sometimes they sit in the back and they can't necessarily see slides all the way ahead of time. They may also have it pulled up on the agenda on their packets that's downloaded to a device. We're a multi-generational board. We all learn differently. And even if we were the same generation, learning styles often vary. So I very much hear you. And I think being a lot more open-minded and appreciating materials provided ahead of time and engaging to avoid the perception of an gotcha moment or an unexpected clarification, we can work on that.
Well, since we're gonna work on building our culture of collaboration, hopefully we don't want any gotcha moments anymore. I mean, I think gotcha moments are really not something we want to do in any case.
Did you see in the session 2, or is it?
Go ahead.
Or something, yeah. In session 2, they mentioned for recruitment on the boards and budget committees, we should solicit non-users. Well, first they said she was talking about mining usage data to get good candidates, and I was like, I don't think we can even do that, so. But then it was like, well, actually, you should be looking for users, low users, and see why don't they come in, so I thought that was interesting. Again, I wasn't sure we could do that or not. We have a policy, don't we, that we can't use our data for anything?
Right,
Patrons data, even if we aggregated it and everything like that?
well, how can you aggregate it
But
and then
you
And then
recruit a
identify the
specific
person you
person?
want to recruit.
And what I heard was
Yeah, but
not,
that's what I heard though. so
I don't remember that, I do remember the 10 things you should know or 10 don't know. I remember her saying, don't recruit your friends,
Yes.
because then you'll
They're like,
get
yeah,
more people who are like you. But I don't remember the specific.
Does anybody remember that? Because I was surprised by it.
And also, if you're talking about like a donor database or something like that, rather than a user database, I
We
don't
don't have
know.
any voluntary databases, or could we possibly, is it something we could do where you say, you're allowed to check and say, yeah, you can use my data for information? You know, they do that on websites, right?
Right, yeah.
I remember that conversation. What fact surprised you, Kevin? The microphone cut out.
Oh, it was that, I thought I heard that she was suggesting in session 2 that we could mine our usage data to get candidates for boards and committees.
And I'm gonna point back to perhaps a much smaller system. I don't think it's applicable to systems that are sitting on, I'm gonna say, library equivalent of big data. There are two kinds of boards, right? Operational for the very small grassroots organizations that might not always have staff. And then there are the governance board, which is what we are, policy oriented. I really think that like, look at you, super users, that sort of usage data. I think that definitely falls as a good best practice recommendation for a very small system, grassroots sort of a library, where they know who's coming in to the one branch 5 days a week. I really kind of I see what you're saying. I think it's very applicable to a much smaller system. And there it would be very much okay, as opposed to us who are sitting on a variety of complex layers of data that can only be aggregated.
Well, and I would have some caution, I think, about a non-user or a not very much user. Because I want people on this board who are A, very interested, and B, willing to work. And if they at least understood some of the issues, that would be even better. But I'd be, we'd have to be pretty careful, I think, in the vetting process to make sure that we didn't end up, well, and we don't actually get to vet board members very much anyway. It's budget committee members,
Right.
which is, so that's a kind of a different requirement maybe, but. And we don't get to make sure that, well, one would hope that somebody who is interested enough to file for election and get themselves elected to the board, that they would be interested enough to do the work and learn what they need to learn.
God bless you, Marta.
What?
Oh, she has a,
Oh,
I think that was about a
Gotcha.
Steve's response. So what do we think we should do better? Based on these,
Just
I-
speak up, Bonnie, it's a small group.
go ahead, yes.
Okay. I'm turning into a one-trick pony here, maybe, with my one single suggestion. I still don't know who the hell all you people are. Although I have to say that I got to know Carrie a whole lot better, and Marta too.
Me too.
But even if it's a thing where, we go out to lunch, if I take each of you out to lunch one day or something, but I really feel like, and maybe because I'm the newcomer, but I really feel like I don't really know your backstory and what motivated each of you to run, and maybe it's because I'm a former journalist and I like to interview people. So I don't know, but free lunch if anyone's interested.
I'd do it even if you worked for the lunch.
Yeah, I think lunches should be Dutch treat, but or that's perhaps not an appropriate way to characterize things anymore.
But yeah, I agree with you, Patty. I love time when we can just sit down and chat on stuff, and I'd be happy to do that. I've been meaning to call you, actually.
Okay. Well, I'll start setting things up with everyone's calendar, and I mean, I don't know if can more people join, because then is it considered a meeting or?
You can get together and have lunch, you just can't talk shop,
Yeah,
but you can talk about,
you can talk shop, you just can't deliberate.
Because I'd like to do both. I'd like to do one-on-ones, but then also do one of the nice things is we are a very small group. I would say we're right-sized, but sitting in and I guess this is a new thing. Susan, you would know this, and Marta, and well, all of you better than I, but I guess this is a recent phenomenon, but that foundation board's big. It has like 13 or 14 people. And so that makes it difficult to form, or you're laughing. That's not big, maybe?
It is bigger,
no,
yeah, no, it's
much
it's
bigger than
definitely
it's
grown.
ever been, than it's been in any recent time anyway.
Yeah. But it's one thing I like about size of this group is that it's easier to get to know each other, I think.
The foundation board is not a governing board, they're more an operational board, so it's really a different.
Oh, good point.
The size of the foundation board is so that they have more people to do more work.
Excellent.
And so their approach to things is and their job there is actually different from our job, I would say.
Yeah.
But back to your point, Patty, of, getting to know each other and, we've talked about scheduling the one-on-ones with me and each of you too, between now and the end of the year and start, making that a more regular occurrence as well. One of the things I wrote down from session 2 was that relationships are the magic bullet for every woe. And I think that, and some of the training of you all act as a body, not as 5 individuals. You're there representing our whole community. And so the stronger our relationship is within each other and the culture of collaboration, all these things kind of come together to say, the more we know each other, the more we're confident that we're moving forward as a body, I guess. And if not that you don't still have your own opinions, but that we're collaborating together towards a common mission.
And the last word there was the key word, having worked for many nonprofits. If you keep your focus on mission, you're probably not going to stray too far. And so that's really important.
Speaking of the size of the board, I will be bringing up at some point, don't know when, the question of what would it take for us to be a larger board for the spirit of representation, greater representation.
Our board is set by statute, our board size.
You mean county charter?
No, it's a state statute.
Because we're a special district.
It's a special district law.
Yeah,
I don't think we have any control. And one of the other things that came up was term limits. And
yeah,
since I have probably violated every potential rule on term limits that would be appropriate, and I'm more than willing to acknowledge that I probably have stayed longer than I should. And can we control, that might be a legal question. Our bylaws, we don't exactly have formal bylaws, but
It's election law.
Unless the state of Oregon passes an election law that
we can't control term limits, so you're stuck with me if I want to keep running.
If the people want you, you have to serve.
Yeah, right. Sure.
I think everyone here, perhaps except for Kevin, may have been a brownie. So remember the song, "Make New Friends, but Keep the Old Summers."
I was not a brownie.
I was not a brownie either, you're right.
And let me tell you, Susan, I love that you've been around so long because I mean, tenure wise, that I have so much to learn.
Good clarification.
Well, I'm pretty certain, Susan, you and I are about the same age. So
Probably true. Well, one of the things, and I don't know that it's an appropriate conversation topic for today, but I think one of the things that we ought to think about as a board is, Eric ran for re-election and Kevin beat him, but mostly I think I'm the only, other than the very first time when we either got 1 year or 2 years. Nobody's run for re-election, and I think that our board would trying to get a little continuity so that not everybody necessarily has to run for re-election, but that we don't just, I'm kind of scared about the possibility of having 3 brand new people on the board in a year and a half when we do this again. So, and maybe that's not a rational reaction, but it gives me pause. Well, go ahead.
is it Susan And Kevin and Marissa, are those the three board positions? Yeah. Oh, that'd be a,
Some of them will run again, I don't know, but I mean, that's gonna be a possibility
mm,
every cycle, because there's two positions up one year and three positions up the next, so, or the next cycle, so. And it's not really anything we have control over, but I
No,
just, a goal of having some sort of continuity would be not a bad goal.
And I think it's interesting because if I reframe what you're saying a different way, is there's a partial turnover every 2 years. There's potential for a 100% turnover once every 4 years. And my position's potentially more stable, has historically not been. And so when you're looking at what's best for the library district, what's that balance of history and new information? And, in a previous system that I worked at, we got pretty far down a conversation before someone was like, wait a second, we're a public entity, we can't do what we think we can do. And it was that collective knowledge and experience that prevented us from doing something that we weren't legally allowed to do as a public entity, right? And so where's that balance and how do we find it as an
Right.
organization,
I
right?
think-
So it's, we talked at one of our earlier work sessions about succession planning, both for the board and for the library director. And I think it's for that very context of what's best for this system moving forward. And there's value in having fresh perspectives every 2 years. And there's also value in that, oh no, not like we can't do that because it didn't work 10 years ago, but we did this 10 years ago and this is what happened. What may have changed in those 10 years to make it more likely today? So I think there's that balancing
Well,
of
I think
knowledge.
balancing is a
Yeah.
great way to describe it. I didn't describe it very well, but I certainly don't think you want all 5 people here running for reelection 4 times either. Then you get stale and so striking
There's
some sort
negatives
of,
to both situations.
striking some sort of balance is really what I would, and I don't know how you do that. I don't think you can actually plan that particularly, but it does seem like it wouldn't be a bad thing to
Mhm.
work to see if we can make it happen.
it seems that, to me, it seems that the greatest challenge is, to everybody's point here, they're elected positions. You can't really manage a plan.
Well, You can't manage all of it, but if you don't run for reelection, you're certainly not gonna serve for 8 years.
Okay, that's a really good point. I'll go back to mute.
Go, Marta.
what we have control over is the dynamics, culture, the board brand, right? Employers have a brand, but so do boards. So if we want to make it a kind of a board where people are feeling fulfilled, like they're being heard, all the things we mentioned earlier, right, that we evaluate ourselves on, that gets us closer to doing what we can and what is within our power. So guarding, nurturing, and fostering a positive culture, and that is between the board and the ED, between the board's members, culture of respect, consideration, flexibility when needed, and structure when needed. We have control over that. We're all individually responsible for that. That's what I appreciated about one of the presentations. They're like, board, it's yours, right? This responsibility, they're yours. So if we want a semblance of predictability due to folks at least running again, then we foster a positive culture. It starts there.
That's true.
So who's going to be the best person for me to be in touch with about the structure and how we are constrained to 5 and what it would take to grow it to more than 5 for greater representation?
I would recommend if you want to just reach out directly to SDAO and ask that question, or if you want to delegate that to me, I'd be happy to research that.
I'd like to delegate it to you because just it sounds like a structure question.
Yep,
Thank you.
I think
Even
you'll
though,
have an easy answer.
yes,
Well,
It's
Thank
either
you.
yes, no, and if it's yes, we could explore it, then it comes back for further conversation. So yeah, I'll
Yes.
research that.
Thank you. Speaking of SDAO, I'm looking for the dates in 2026. Kevin went last year. Carrie and Marta, we were deterred by the storm. It's going to be in Seaside, Oregon in 2026.
Oh, is it really?
Yoli has the information and she will be sending out an email to all of you shortly. And registration doesn't open until sometime next month, but it will be also on the bottom of your November agenda.
Is that usually April?
No, February. This is the Special District Association Conference. Then the
Oh,
Oregon Library Association Conference will be in April. And I can't remember what that is either. I think that's in Bend.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
this is
think-
2025. Sorry.
Do,
Yeah.
do we need
2026 is,
to
yeah.
limit the number of board members that go to it, that attend it?
Do not. So it is training. It is a conference that all board members can attend. We just can't meet after a session and have our own little work session or anything like that. But for training purposes, we're all welcome to attend both the Oregon Library Conference and the SDAO conference. We have historically had a very high representation at conferences across the state, so.
One of the interesting things about the SDAO conference, for me, the last time I went, was we have a growing number. We're up to how many library districts now? There are a bunch. So there's opportunities to talk to other library district board members at the SDAO conference. That was pretty interesting. They were even talking about putting together a library district interest group as part of SDAO, which might be a reason to participate a little more, just to see if we can.
Yeah, if that happens, I'm supportive of that. It was inspiring to see the community of peers and the networks that our counterparts on the East Coast and in the Midwest have formed. Having those peer networks is just invaluable. So let's keep each other updated on if you hear something, please share. If I hear anything, I'll share too.
I think being the weenie of the group, I think in about 10 minutes I'm going to be rolling off here, if that's okay.
That's fine.
You know I'm not feeling well when I'm because that's not my way.
You want your sickies to get overtired and slow down your getting well.
Plus, it's almost dark out, so it's like time for bed, isn't it?
So what does it take away that we need to better our relationships? Is that what we're all kind of consensus? I know they mentioned that was a big thing, that relationships, everything. Have we evaluated our own relationship building activities? I mean, maybe we should, I'd be willing to meet socially or something with the group, and as long, and I'm pretty sure, well, anyway, I think it's, as long as you're not deliberating on a subject that's coming before you, you can talk about the library, the books and everything else, just not any deliberation.
I think we need to be very clear on what the purpose of the social gathering is.
Well,
And I
that's my
think-
point, it's
yeah.
relationship building, so I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Excellent.
really not that clear, you know what I mean, but.
But you can talk about your kids and your wife and your
Right,
whatever.
well, and we have, and we've gone
Right.
out to dinner, we've had some occasions like that, and that's perfectly fine, so.
Not lately, though. We haven't done one of those in a long time,
Yeah.
so it might be fun to just try to every once in a while. Of course, finding time when all five of us can show up, or five plus Carrie or whoever might want to join, is difficult.
It's like Yoli's like, oh, I've seen Carrie's calendar. And then y'all start going on trips and it's like, we have
Yeah.
like 1 minute.
It's really
But, yeah.
hard to get.
But I think it's
everybody.
important, and I think it's also, Kevin, you mentioned it's important to start the meetings on time and end on time. It's also important to have a quorum. It's also important, all these different things. And it's so, if you say, you know what, on X date, we're gonna meet up at X location and 3 out of 6 of us can make it, do we
Well,
cancel it because we couldn't all make it? Or do we say, you know what, it's a start,
it's just.
we're gonna build on it and we're gonna keep,
Mm,
having these opportunities, so.
Maybe one way would be to tie it in with the study sessions that we're doing, like, have a 15-minute, 20-minute social hour beforehand. Where people
We
show up.
could do that, I think
That
that,
could be agenda, we don't have to worry about it.
Can you come beforehand?
Well, as of
Can Marta
today,
come?
I have.
Marissa come
afternoons free.
beforehand? I mean, it's just so,
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe we don't get it applied to everything, but
no, but then you
We
have
have
to
to
change
try.
the times so that.
Folks, Patty raised her hand.
Different, yes.
I know I'm supposed to stop talking, but and I didn't mean to interrupt anybody, but to your point, Kevin, if we met for like 15 or 20 minutes a couple times before our work session, we could do some icebreakers. And I know that sounds corny, but like where we'd like, if there's 6 of us, each of us breaks up into groups of 2, and then you tell the rest of the group what you thought was most interesting, what you learned about that person. Sometimes that person's surprised at what the other person thought was most interesting. But there's all sorts of fun icebreakers that we could modify maybe to have a little structure to it. No?
Or,
maybe, yeah, I don't wanna be the guy making the icebreaker, but yeah, I could do it.
I'm up for trying it, maybe without breaking into smaller groups, but an icebreaker. I'm actually not opposed to those. I've mentioned having the board over at my house for croissants and coffee. Right, not every gathering has to be like a happy hour sort of thing. And so I'd love to have the board over at my place once everybody's feeling well, possibly, January, possibly not competing with a board plus foundation board social that specific month. That's something I'm really interested in. And I live close to the library, less than a mile away. Hopefully that would work with folks' schedules. I think it's a possibility. And maybe it's just donuts, right? 2 months ago, I had a meeting with one of the local foundations over donuts at a donut shop. They were not expecting it. It ended up being an amazing meeting. Sometimes all you need is a donut and a cup of coffee. So I'm a big fan of a morning time, not too early coffee gathering in a schedule that works with both those who are retired, other active volunteers, and in the workforce. That's what I would love to suggest.
maybe even a Saturday morning or something.
I do not give up my weekends. I can't. I stay sane because my weekends are off limits. I can't. It's a matter of survival. Sorry.
Okay,
I can't. But yes, that's actually part of why the Ohio conference worked out because we got back on Friday midnight. Well, and then I ended up working. I worked that Saturday and Sunday. So sometimes my work also happens on weekends. That's very important. Like, don't assume that weekends are everybody's weekends.
no, I
No.
Yeah.
agree. It's been a while since I had to keep a work schedule, but I sympathize.
So I'm all for getting to know each other better as long as we are like super cognizant of the schedules and are really flexible with it. And to answer Carrie's question, yeah, if 3 of us can make it but 6 can't, absolutely. It's furthering the connections and understanding of what walks of life we're coming from.
Hopefully there would be a different three people at the next one, so.
Cool.
This is great. Yay.
Hey,
Another option is to try to show up for board, if you're coming to a board meeting in person, if I try to get here early most of the time, just to try to have a conversation with people. It's hard to plan that, but that's another place where some of that activity can happen.
Where were we, maybe you guys can help me, that somebody said, if you're early, you're on time. Anybody?
You're on time, you're late.
Maybe that's a military thing. I don't know, but
It's a business thing, I've heard it, yeah.
prior to the board meetings, I don't have a spare minute. Sometimes when I get there early, I'm checking work emails up until 3:59. And you've seen me, like, sometimes I'll hang out in the computer area with all the other computer users. I have to walk in with like a 30-second buffer. I can't get there early.
Yeah, and I think what I appreciate is the efforts to try to find those times, and so I think we're gonna have to try a couple different things, and maybe it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say tea and donuts because I don't like coffee, but to each their own beverage. But I mean, maybe we try an 8:30 in the morning one time, and then we try a ice cream social or whatever, but I know that all of our time is valuable. I know that sometimes after our meetings, there's not time either, but I also know there's times when it's like, hey, Susan, meeting got out a little early today. Do you want to go grab a happy hour or whatever? And so I think, there's opportunities for those spontaneous one-on-one connections, as well as those times to meet and talk with each other. And I think step one is, hearing that we're willing to explore and find those times will help make them happen. Although I did look at my calendar and I was like, let's talk in January. I'm like, oh wait, no, yeah.
Well,
Every day is
are we-
busy.
Should we plan some sort of a holiday thing, or is that too busy? We've done that in the past.
I like a holiday thing.
Yeah, like a Secret Santa book exchange.
Oh, and that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
That would
limit.
really
Yeah, doesn't have to be new either. Just a book you appreciate. That's something we can plan offline before I say my name on record or my address on record.
Well, and I think too, like, there's a lot of holiday travel with Patty and Susan out of town. So yes, but we've usually done it in January. To answer Kevin's
Sounds
question.
good.
Sorry.
Nope, forgot it.
Early.
You know what? I'm going to, if I can figure out how to turn it off.
Oh, I remembered. Patty, I'm happy to work with you to get you the presentations without sharing my login because we don't endorse that. But let's talk on getting you the presentations.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. Thank you,
Good.
everyone. It's always joyful to be with all of you. And I'm
Same to you. Hope you feel better.
I will. It's not fatal, it's just annoying. I'm not sure.
Leave,
Trying to find the leave button.
the leave button.
You're muted. Turn the computer off.
You hover the mouse over the 4 video squares, and then the button with the person walking out a red door shows up in your bottom right square.
There we go. Bye. It worked. Good job. Well, it sounds to me like we might be winding down a bit.
Mhm.
Any
Um,
last words?
Yes.
Any
Yeah.
further suggestions, comments? Mark?
I'm gonna start going through the Foundation Day trainings, recordings from that conference, just to better understand the world that our foundation board peers are living in. Carrie, is there anything we need to do to prepare or start thinking about as the state librarian is about to be a guest speaker at a board meeting?
No, that really, she's just gonna come to talk about the variety of services that, the state library provides. When I asked her, it was not in the context of, any concerns about budgets or anything like that. It was just so that you all have a better understanding, we all, me, myself included, I'm sure I will learn things too. But what types of services the state library provides and how Jackson County residents benefit from state library services.
Relationship building.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm really interested in that. I think it's Answerland.
Yep.
That, I've used it a few times, but, I wanna know what is available through that. Like, can they send us reports and all sorts of stuff?
I could ask her more. I went to her listening session on Friday.
Mhm.
And I confessed, I'm like, I don't promote it here. I don't know much about it. So I'll make sure that she includes some information on that service and,
Yeah,
you know, I'll see if she can pull any data on usage in Jackson County. She did say that it is primarily used by academic and schools.
right.
More-
And I just
more than
wanna-
public
yeah, I
libraries,
don't think
so,
we're
yeah.
using it to the extent I want to, so.
Yeah.
And, getting access to pay over paywalls is the huge thing that I think they can have.
Gale databases. I think I'll have a question about Gale databases. If they can discuss that, that'd be awesome. And the Oregon Heritage.
Is there anywhere to get access to LexisNexis?
Not that I'm aware of.
Go to the county law library.
Marta, what was the
Yeah,
other
is it-
thing? Gale databases and
Wow.
what?
Oregon Heritage Project.
I'm not sure how much
Thank you.
Nexus stuff there is, but they for sure have access to Westlaw.
Yeah, actually, Nexus would be what I was looking for.
I know, but
All right, we're getting off topic a little bit
We are.
here and Jackie's in my ear.
Perfect.
Jackie?
The
She's in my
lawyer.
ear. Off topic a little bit.
Well,
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Our next board meeting is on
November.
2 weeks from today, so November 19th.
19th.
We'll see you all there.
All right, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 4:47.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.